Welcome to Stories of a Volunteeraholic.
My name is Amy Thiemeier. I'm your host, and I have a beautiful friend with me today, Veronica Davis, and she runs a program called CAVE. Why don't you tell us about that to start off with?
Okay, so CAVE wants to remind a veteran that they were part of our community before they were a veteran. How I do that is I host monthly veteran coffee and resources. I want our veterans to be proactive, not reactive. So I try and choose resources that are different because it's like your car is breaking down, right? You're not looking for a mechanic until your car breaks down, or you're not looking for a tire until it breaks down. So that was my concept behind it, is have these coffees at different locations so that the veteran can come in, have a positive experience and say, oh, if this ever happens, I can come here. So that's what we do.
It's so cool. We had the opportunity to collaborate this year for our first time, which I thought was really good, with the 9/11 Heroes Run.
Yes.
And it ended up very, very rainy, but the day, I think it went pretty well. And so that was pretty exciting. We're hoping to do it again this next year, maybe at a different park. But I want to kind of go back to a beginning question that I always ask my guests. Did you grow up volunteering, or did you become a volunteer later in life?
I believe I grew up volunteering. I had to think about that. I was raised in East Los Angeles, and I felt that everyone tasked you. So maybe it was voluntold to do these things. My mom would volunteer me. Oh, yes, Veronica can do this. Veronica can do that. So I feel like I grew up volunteering. It wasn't just something that was new to me, and that it was reinforced being a military spouse.
Well, I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I think it's also, I like how you want veterans to get back into their communities.
Yes.
Because my overarching goal is to get everybody involved in communities. But I do think that in the veteran population, we need maybe some extra support in even knowing what that is. And that could tie, I wonder if it ties for some, is they went to the military to get away from their communities. And so they might not know how to connect with new communities that are positive, that are in alignment with yourself. So your coffees, I think, can be really, really impactful. So that's kind of exciting.
To piggyback off of that statement, I feel that a lot of people have nostalgic memories. Right, you remember of where you grew up until you go back, and then you remember, oh, this is why I moved away, right? But also you've evolved. You don't know what you want, because when I give my elevator speech to sponsors, I say, when you're in the military, you're taught one unit, one mission, when to wake up, when to go to sleep, when to go to work, all these things. So what happens when you don't have that structure, right? So it's not just so much about coming back to your community. It's also how to rewire your brain of, come be a part of this. And also being in the military is so much mission focused that let's give you a mission, give back to your community. Let me help you do that.
I think that's perfect. I think it's interesting when people kind of get that volunteering or service to our communities can look all sorts of different ways. And that's one of the biggest things that I think people they're like, oh, I don't like kids. Same. And, I don't want to volunteer with kids. They're not my jam, different things like that. And that's okay. Maybe they love working with pets. I had this one episode that I was talking about, if we could give police officers kittens and puppies,
Yes,
it could really help their mental health. So, and because they work in service, they sometimes don't realize they're not volunteers, because it's a part of your job. And so then asking them to volunteer, all they think about is volunteering in the same space that they work. And I'm like, no, I want you to volunteer for an animal shelter. I want you, because it's almost like a different type of therapy. and I want them to, find joy. And I really believe that when you volunteer in the right space, there's all this collateral beauty that you had no idea would happen. Like, so here's a cop, theoretically, this is a make-believe story, who's volunteering at a humane society or a pet shelter, and with kittens or dogs, and then they go on a rescue or a call for work, and they end up bonding with a kid or a person over an animal, and they have much more in their toolbox because they're at a calmer state, because they've been doing some, really fun volunteering, and they have experiences to draw on.
That happens all the time. I had a veteran that was coming to our coffees, and they were always really quiet, always to themselves. And I would say, being my usual, asking the questions, trying to find out. And it just so happens that I was talking about an anime series. And their eyes lit up. They're like, "Oh, have you watched?" And it was a total different person. So it goes back. It wasn't so much volunteering, but if you find something that someone is passionate about, you're opening up a door to so many other things, right? I really love finding out, where is your passion? What do you like to do? Perfect example, December 19th, we are having a arts and craft edition, right? To end the year, we're creating a succulent fairy garden. And I asked this veteran, "Are you going to come out?" They're like, "No, you do not want me to see me with dirt and a plant." I said, "Okay, that might be funny." But, some people are like, "Oh, really?" It's trying to meet the veterans where they're at, trying to find out, what is your passion? Let me help you discover what you would like to thrive in, and then we can do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. And I do, it's, not everybody likes the same type of pie or wears the same type of shoes. And I think people, when they think of volunteering, a lot of people just look at such a narrow slice of what is available. And, and if we took volunteering and engaging in community the same way, I think it's really good. Now, another question I always ask is, right now in Washington, Oregon at least, the kids are, and I'm going to use the word mandated, and I don't know all the background on it, are asked to volunteer 10 hours a year, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And it's a part of, they're not supposed to be able to graduate without these volunteer hours. And do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's a very unpopular opinion. I believe that everybody should give a year of service somewhere, something, kind of like give back to your community, maybe not so much a year, but I think a lot of people don't understand who they are, or that sense of purpose, because they weren't given it, right? I never would have thought how much I love what I do until I was given the opportunity to do it. And I think a lot of people, they don't know. And it's not for everyone, you're right. But also you're helping your community. Even if it's just for the 10 hours, then do your minimum. Maybe your wheelhouse is somewhere else, but why not find out? Because what's the worst that can happen? Oh, I did my 10 hours. Great, but that could open doors to something else. It's something they really love to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm torn because, voluntold versus choosing, but I also feel like, geez, there could be some really great impacts from it. And it's about 50% of my guess that
Really?
Some are like, oh yes, this is why. And others are like, absolutely not. That rubs me the wrong way.
Well,
and I'm concerned with access, for the kids that have to work and go to school. Creating another boundary, different things like that. And I think there's great points on both sides, and it's an interesting thing that is happening. And I don't think the people who don't have kids that are in high school right now have any clue.
Another reason why I feel that maybe this might be great is a lot of people. I remember, I'm going to age myself. When I was in school, I had to have a class called Life Skills Math. And in this class, I had a job. You drew your job from the jar, and then you had to actually get the newspaper. That's how old I am. And you had to circle where you can get a job, and they would give you a mock interview, and okay, the job is yours. And then I had to look for an apartment, and then once a week we had to draw from a jar life events. Oh, your windshield got shattered, or you lost your cat, something. Well, I'm thinking, maybe the volunteering isn't all life skills, right? But you get to see other people's experience. So I just want to throw that in there. Like, yes, I think they're looking at the mandated word. Maybe if we described it as, here's your choice and this is the added benefit, or you get this extra whatever versus the mandate. I think it's all about the delivery.
Maybe. And, it's interesting. I was chaperoned a sports and schools girls leadership summer camp this last summer at Central Washington University. And some of the coaches and counselors were saying that one of the challenges is because the kids were under the age of 16 in the 9th and 10th grade years, nonprofits won't allow them to do the work because there's liability issues and different things like that. And so I thought that was really interesting as well. But there's so many things that you could do. There is, I think if they pulled it away of having to work with a nonprofit versus I cleaned, if you have somebody witness you cleaning your neighborhood for 10 hours, that would work as volunteer work in my mind. And so I think they could massage the rules to make it a little bit more equitable. And also almost like you have a jar of different volunteer opportunities for them that are open to them.
I'm a fixer, so in my mind I'm going through, how can we do this? How can we accomplish this? It goes back to the liabilities. Who's going to be able to say, we're not doing this, but let's rephrase it so it can fit in this box. It's all about being creative with it's like you're filling out a grant, right? Let's get creative. What are the keywords that we need, and what are the keywords that we do not need, right? And let's just be creative so that it fits in this box.
Well, and I agree. I was like, I think the Travis Manning, because we work with kids, would be the perfect organization to help you out with this. But they have to call us. You know what I mean? We have to be invited in, and give different opportunities. But actually, I'm going to point out your sweatshirt says the mission continues. A couple years ago, TMF and the Mission Continues collaborated on a program at Lincoln High School in Tacoma. And half of the class was a character course, and the other half was the Mission Continues teaching the kids project management. And so they did all these things, and it was a really good, I would like to do that again with the Mission Continues. And at the end, the kids picked a project to do, and it was their senior project.
Oh, wow.
And so they cleaned and gardened, the school has a community garden, and so the garden boxes were good, but around the garden boxes and part of the area needed some attention. And so we brought out Mission Continues people and TMF people with the school, and it was a really neat program.
The reason why I wore the Mission Continues was they were the first veteran nonprofit organization that I volunteered with here in Washington. And I love what they do. I've been to Rainier High School when they created garden boxes. It was in Seattle. And then we did something in Tacoma with an elementary school. And we built bookshelves and we created a little reading nook for them. Yeah. So I love that. let's run it back again. I love
Right?
that idea.
Well, and I want to say, in the beginning of the Mission Continues, I want to say the Travis Manion Foundation actually paid for some of their first cohorts.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so TMF and TMC have a real shared beginning, which is really neat. But I will just poke a little fun.
Just a little.
Just a little. Just as much as I love kids, I do not do gardening. So those projects, but I have supported the Mission Continues up in Seattle, in Tacoma, a couple different places. But it's because I'm supporting my friends.
Yes,
they support me, so I will come and support you. But I love the Mission Continues, but that is not my jam.
I get that. I know. I feel the same way. I'm like, it's not mine too, but you're right. I love that. I love how the Travis Manion Foundation is always collaborating and supporting other nonprofits. I love that. I wish a lot of other nonprofits would do that. Ryan McCarrick was my first platoon leader. And that's where I started, but it's funny because he feels the same way. No, at certain ages, you're right, and I feel like I could never be a teacher. I do not have the patience. My face speaks a lot of things, so I totally understand that. But your skill set could be like, hey, let's get this going, and everybody needs a leader.
Right. Well, and I think I do agree. I think good collaborations with good nonprofits is another thing that really builds communities, and not, I think, right sizing the interactions. Like if we did one or two things a year with the Mission Continues. So it's like that within TMF, we have this build, measure, learn, repeat. I don't want to do everything where all TMF people are going to every Mission Continues thing, or every mission or every TMF event, all the Mission Continues people, because that can kind of destroy your bandwidth. And I think, but if we did 2 projects a year really well, every year, we have this great partnership. We can, if somebody's like, "Ooh, kids, not my jam," I can say, "Hey, look at the Mission Continues. They're doing this, that, and the other, and you might really enjoy it."
Also, I have a different lens because I am an event coordinator. In my mind, I love knowing the people that I can go to. So in my mind, I've already planned for 2025 to 9/11 Heroes Run. It's already in there, right? But I also agree with you. I think there's just certain people that collaboration is easy, and sometimes it's something less that you have to think about, right? Like the Vet Center, Tanya Rosales with the Vet Center, and Jackie, of course, with TMF. I already know who my people are. That, hey, let's have a high tea. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's create this, right? So I kind of like going to certain people because it's just easy, and you look forward to it.
Well, I also feel like if we look at volunteer experience or even participant experience, when you have people who enjoy each other, that do make the collaboration simpler, it also makes the volunteer or the participant experience better.
Because there's less chaos.
Yep.
Well,
or
there's organized chaos.
Right. And I feel like events are hard. And nothing ever goes perfectly. And so when you have the right people around you, you can flex and bend together well. And I think that's important because, staying away from, I guess in my world of event planning and different things like that, like there can be a lot that goes wrong that people on the back end know, that people on the front end have no clue about. And I always think that's kind of magical.
Remember our 9/11, we were both walking around like everybody was giving us kudos. Everyone was saying, "Oh my God, what an amazing job." And you and I looked at each other. I thought it was a shit show, didn't you think? And we were thinking all the things that went wrong. That's why I laughed, because yep, that's it.
And I think, but I think that's almost the way it should be. I mean, we strive for perfection.
That we do.
Yeah, but perfect is only perfect 100% of the time. And I think it's I don't know, like a part of the beast, or part of the journey. Maybe not the beast. Maybe it's the journey, because that's where we grow and learn, and it's also where we can help others. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to that. I have one really funny story about the 9/11 Heroes Run. So,
only one. We only have time for one.
The gentleman who did the timing, which he was really neat and easy to work with, wished he had gotten there probably about 45 minutes earlier. But he sent me the invoice and for the timing thing. But I had been getting so many scam emails about invoices that didn't exist. I just emailed him back, no thank you. So he emailed me back. He's like, Amy, I did your 9/11 Heroes Run. This is the balance. And so then
I need to use that. See if it goes by. No thank you.
No thank you. I pass. No,
thank you. I don't want this bill. I need to use that.
And so then when I forwarded it up to the national race director, she laughed so hard. She had to call me. She's like, Amy, I might use that too. Just, let me just say no to bills.
Yeah, no thank you. Here you go. No thank you. I don't want that. Oh. Yes, I'm definitely going to have that. Will be repeated. Just letting you know.
But, and I appreciate he was very gracious. He was like realized that maybe I didn't realize
because
what it was.
Out of character for you.
Right.
Let me remind her why she needs to pay this bill.
Well, and his company has a unique name, and so it didn't click.
People would be amazed of how many things you forget. How many lists do you have? Somebody said, Veronica, I would really love it if you gave me a one-pager of just things that are really important. Well, like, it's going to be more than one page. Because there's so many things that you do and it's automatic, right? So for someone else to come in and, take over an event, I start listing the things like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I totally forgot about that. And I said, this is why you start writing things down, because muscle memory for me is not muscle memory for you.
Right. And I agree with that. I think even with an event, it's like tent, table, chairs, and it's these things that are very much second nature, but also creating those lists do help me ensure I don't forget something, because it's usually just that one thing, right? It's not the same one thing, but there's usually one thing on that list that doesn't.
Or you plan 10 events, you've brought this one item, you haven't used it, and you're like, you know what? I haven't used that. Let me not bring it, and then you're gonna need it.
Yeah. And I have a go kit, which which has things like duct tape and a box knife and a first aid kit, and and it's not synonymous with any event or any one type. It's just twine, a bungee cord, that is in my vehicle. Kind of, I've had when I was doing different events, I had like a diaper and a pair of socks. I mean, you never know what.
I believe you.
And it's all those little things that like to your point, if somebody were getting into events, we would recommend or to have that conversation. What's in your go kit?
I would. I think, you know what? You just gave me an idea. I really would like to ask what's in your go kit. I've added mine a water spray bottle, cleansing wipes.
Yep. Okay.
Also feminine hygiene items. And I think and lots of Sharpies, because it's like a bobby pin. You buy a pack and all of a sudden, where's my Sharpie?
Yep. Yeah. I want to say rubber bands.
Yes. Paper clips, stapler.
Yeah. Like it's crazy.
Hammer. Yes, I do have a hammer in my go kit.
Yeah. And but those are the easy but fun things, but they they can make or break an event. I have a bottle opener and a wine cork because I have had to serve wine at a charity fundraiser, and I wasn't a part of the charity. Like, I wasn't actually supposed to be volunteering. I was supposed to just be attending. And the venue was like, well, we need somebody who's certified to serve alcohol. It's a mass license. And nobody had one.
Of course you have
one. But I had one.
Of course you do.
And so then I ended up serving wine all night long.
It's funny that you mentioned having a bottle and wine opener. I attended an event, and they were opening not champagne bottles. They had these type of bottles that they needed, the popper. And I said, oh, I have it. It's on my keychain. Don't judge. And then you hear everybody, where did we get this small one? And they're like, whose keys are these? Well, of course, Veronica is the one that had the bottle opener.
Yeah. And so it is, I have 3 events come to my mind that, 2 I ended up serving. One was funny because I was actually the speaker. So I went from the speaker to the bar to the podium to the bar.
But that's our life as volunteers.
Right.
That is totally our life. I can be at an event, and even if it's not my event, hey, do you need any help with this? And before I know it, I'm either hanging something up or I'm pulling out my computer and creating something really quick that somebody didn't think of or something. But I think that shows how much you're always just, hey, this is my role.
Yeah. And it makes it more memorable, I think.
It's very true.
And, and it's funny, like I've had I'm what I consider extroverted introvert.
I know exactly what you mean.
So I can go and say all the words and do all the things, but then I need to be by myself to recharge. So when I do a networking event, if I'm doing a networking event, say for TMF or even MVP or something, my modality is I go and I speak to everyone and then I leave. But I tend to do an Irish goodbye because I'm just done. And Jackie called me on it. And so she's like, you can't.
How dare you, Jackie?
And she's like, you can't do that. You can't just leave because you're usually leaving me. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So she's good at making sure that I say my goodbyes, but that's new.
I really love how you bring up decompressing. I think that a lot of people, whether you're the event planner, the organizer, the speaker, you really need time to recharge. After any of my events, I need a full solid 2 hours to decompress. And people are always shocked when I tell them this. No phone calls, no nothing. And I said, I give out a lot of energy and I take in a lot of energy being around people. And I don't think people recognize that. When someone says, oh, you're so great talking with people. Yes, but that's because I keep an even different energy level and they don't recognize that you need to recharge. For me, I need at least, this is why usually people don't see anything from me for a while. Sometimes it just depends on how heavy attendance it is will determine that. So I would really love to do an Irish goodbye, but as an event coordinator, I cannot.
Right. Right. And it is a luxury of being an attendant. Versus doing the event. And you're right, when I'm doing the event, that's not the case. I'm last man out because you're packing everything up,
yes.
Stuff like that.
Or picking up things that other people left. Our last event at the Heroes Run, there were 3 tents left, and I had to be like, excuse me, did you mean to leave your tent here?
Oh, that's funny. And yes. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for all the nuances on events and volunteering, but I also feel like it is where you find such great relationships and opportunities to be creative and think outside the box. Like some jobs are so hard because they are so in the box. Yes. That it doesn't give you a lot of room to explore. And I think events really do give you a lot of room to explore and enjoy things, yeah.
Yes, I love my job. I get to throw parties. I get to be funny on stage, even though some people don't think I'm funny, but that's a them problem. But I also get to meet people and see them just shine, especially if you see something in someone. Hey, have you ever thought about sharing your story? Well, no. Who would be interested? No. You would be surprised. And then seeing them tell their story and then having them come back to me like, I really love that. I really enjoyed that. Or I really like that, but I would love it at a smaller capacity, right? So events and volunteering give me a chance to see other people outside of their norm. And that's the part that I truly love. Seeing Jackie, seeing you, I was like, oh my God, you're such a character. I love that. I love your personality.
That's funny. Is there anything else that you would like to share on getting involved in your community, share about CAVE?
Yes. So December 19th, we have our fairy garden. Also January, look forward to Community Thursdays. I want to give a chance to get to know the people that are boots on the ground as far as giving back to the community leaders, community change makers, anyone and everyone. And stay tuned for a lot more amazing events with CAVE.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And you guys have a great day and definitely look into these organizations. My name is Amy Thiemeier, Stories of a Volunteeraholic. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Thank you.